The time is 4:04 p.m. We're back on the record.
Mr. Borelli, you've been handed what's been marked Exhibit 38, which is another email string between you and your distributor, client, customer, Mr. Cochran at KeySource Medical. The string starts with the Bates number MNKT10000559457. And this is a June 25th, 2010 email from Mr. Cochran to you with the subject line, Ray Oxycodone Sales in Florida Summary. Do you see that?
I do. I do.
And if you go to where that chain starts, you'll see there's an email from you on June 25th, 2010 at 7:31 a.m. to Mr. Cochran. Subject line, Oxycodone Sales in Florida Summary. And you write, per your request, here are the accounts that make up the 3% outside the box list. Do you see that?
I do.
And so here you are providing Mr. Cochran with information on downstream customers who were identified in the earlier email we discussed as comprising 3% of KeySource's sales. Correct?
I believe so.
And if you turn to the first page of that exhibit, in an email on June 25th, 2010 at 7:56 a.m., email, Mr. Cochran writes to you, Victor, I sent the list to Dave. Do you think non-addiction treatment clinic is a dangerous category to sell to? So in this email, Mr. Cochran is asking you if you, Victor Borelli, think this category of downstream customers that he has is a dangerous category to sell to. Is that right?
Let me look at the couple of pages here, if you don't mind. So he's asking me about this, these treatment clinics.
Right.
Okay.
Your client is asking you your opinion on whether a particular category of downstream customers is a dangerous category, right?
He's asking me that question, yes.
Okay. And you see above his email is your email to him 4 minutes later, in which you respond. Do you see that?
I do.
And I'll read through your response. You first answer his question by saying, do they dispense? Why is that something that could potentially make non-addiction treatment clinics a dangerous category?
I'm just highlighting some things to him. He's asking me a question, and I'm responding with, in 3 minutes or 4 minutes, off the cuff kind of thoughts.
And my question to you is, why did you write, do they dispense? Why is that a question that's potentially indicative of whether non-addiction treatment clinic is a dangerous category?
Well, I believe that I'm tying in how one of the accounts you mentioned before uses a DEA agent for these specific things. Pictures, I shared that with you before. Pictures of the front door, back door, entrance and exits, meets with them, interviews them. So he's asking me a question, and I'm highlighting just in 3 or 4 minutes things I thought of.
Right. I understand what you wrote, sir, and I'm asking you why you wrote this. Why did you think, let's see if we can answer that question. Why did you think, do they dispense is a question that could provide an answer indicating whether a non-addiction treatment clinic is a dangerous category?
I wrote a number of responses.
But I'm asking you about that one.
I don't know why I put that first in my response.
Okay, there's nothing about whether they dispense that you can recall that would provide any information about whether it's a dangerous category to sell to.
No.
And move to your next question. You say, do they work in tandem with a pharmacy right next door? Why did you identify that as a question that could provide information on whether a non-addiction treatment clinic is a dangerous category to sell to?
That was what the DEA agent had talked about, things to look for. Louis Fisher.
And did he also talk about looking for whether they dispense?
I believe he did. I don't remember specifically.
Okay. And then you say, did you visit them, take pictures, interview them? Why would that be potentially helpful information for determining if a non-addiction treatment clinic is a dangerous category to sell to?
So he knows his customer.
And what is it that you would learn about your customer if you visit them, take pictures, and interview them?
I can't answer. I think just conversation with a customer. Is it somebody they do business with?
And do you think that if you're visiting a non-addiction treatment clinic and you see a line of people out the door with cash in their hands, that might suggest that there's diversion going on?
Object to the form.
Is that the kind of thing you might capture if you visit them, take pictures, or interview them?
Object to the form.
None of what you just said is in this. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm not saying is a line of people. I'm saying I'm recommending what the DEA agent who does this for a living recommend or mentioned. I don't know if he recommended it or if he mentioned it, but again, and 4 minutes later, that's my response off the top of my head.
Right, and would it be fair to say that...
And I said, who the heck knows? The DEA doesn't have a formal process for any of the customers that are in this room. They don't tell any of them how to act or how to not act. They just don't.
So you're saying to your distributor customer who's buying substantial quantities of oxycodone for you, I don't really have any idea how you tell if something's a dangerous category to sell to. Who the heck knows these days?
Well,
is that the idea?
No, I think the tone you just used is improper. You're kind of being cavalier about this, and that's the last thing I am is cavalier about this.
So what is who the heck knows? How is that not
who the heck
cavalier?
Knows? Because that should be driven from the DEA, the direction and who should dispense, who should write, who should receive product. That's all, in my humble opinion, is driven from the DEA. So who the heck knows? They don't have a formal, that's what I'm saying, they don't have a formal process in place on what to do and what not to do. I think everybody in the room has been fined by the DEA.
So when you say who the heck...
people, the companies they represent.
When you say who the heck knows these days, you're saying you don't really know how one would go about identifying non-addiction, whether a non-addiction treatment clinic is a dangerous category to sell to.
Object to the form.
Right? Isn't that what you're telling your client? You don't know. You don't know how to identify downstream customers that are dangerous categories to sell to.
In a 3-minute later email, he asked a question. I shared some thoughts off the cuff, but I can't answer for the DEA. I can't speak for the DEA, and I think the DEA needs to give direction on this product.
And other than what you were told by the DEA, there's nothing that you know about any of the 3 categories that you wrote that would indicate to you, based on your experience, that that would be an indication of a dangerous category.
Object to the form.
Again, I'm just going off of what the DEA agent shared with me, and he asked me a question at 7:56, and I'm quickly typing at 8 o'clock. But I don't know what the DEA looks for. I can't speak for the DEA, but do I think the onus is on the DEA? In my humble opinion, yes.
Could you read my question back, please?
And other than what you were told by the DEA, there's nothing that you know about any of the 3 categories that you wrote that would indicate to you, based on your experience, that that would be an indication of a dangerous category.
Object to the form.
Can you answer?
And I thought I did.
Do you want the question read back again?
Sure.
And other than what you were told by the DEA, there's nothing that you know about any of the 3 categories that you wrote that would indicate to you, based on your experience, that that would be an indication of a dangerous category.
Object to the form.
It's just off the cuff, 4 minute later response in an email about some recommendations. I also highlight who the heck knows because there's no firm direction.
And so, to answer my question,
Just did, didn't I?
no. Should we read it back again?
Please do. I'm sorry if I'm not answering it properly for you, but I think I am.
Why don't we try one more time?
Certainly.
And other than what you were told by the DEA, there's nothing that you know about any of the 3 categories that you wrote that would indicate to you, based on your experience, that that would be an indication of a dangerous category.
Object to the form.
These are just 3 things that were highlighted to me by a DEA agent, a retired DEA agent, on things that he focuses on. He's asking a question, I'm responding 4 minutes later.
So the answer to my question is no. Your sole source of information on what would be indicative of a dangerous category to sell to is the DEA.
Object to the form.
It's one of the sources of information that should be used.
Okay. Sir, you wrote 3 items down that you thought were questions that one would ask to determine whether something was a dangerous category.
Okay?
You wrote those questions solely because the DEA told you those were things to look at. Is that right?
Object to the form.
I believe so. I also asked him to call me to talk at 10:30, and perhaps I would have more ideas or thoughts.
And did you give him more ideas and thoughts when he called you?
8 years later, I don't remember.
You've been handed what's marked Exhibit 39, which is an email from you to Mr. Cochran that includes an email from Kate Mullenkamp to you. Do you see that? It's dated August 7th, 2010 is your email to Mr. Cochran. And the subject is key source oxycodone sales. Do you see that?
I do.
And so looking at this, it appears that you received an email from Ms. Mullenkamp and you forwarded that email to Mr. Cochran, right?
Yes. Sorry.
And Ms. Mullenkamp's email to you says, Vic, per our conversation, please find the attached graph showing the transition of oxycodone sales from H.D. Smith to Key Source of the last several months. And then she goes on, additionally, we had Steve reach out to H.D. Smith to find out what business they had walked away from. Attached is a list of customers that they have either shut down or severely restricted. We are not suggesting that Key Source adhere to H.D. Smith's methods, but thought it might be helpful for them to have a list of accounts that a similar business had deemed suspicious. You see that?
I do.
And then she reports that Steve, and I gather this is Steve Cochran, asked H.D. Smith how they identified these accounts, and H.D. Smith noted the following. Do you see that?
I do, but I doubt that that is Steve Cochran.
Who do you think it is?
I doubt a customer would talk to another customer. It could be Steve Becker,
Okay, somebody at
but I
Merrill
don't
Crowe.
know. I'm not exactly sure who that Steve is, but it, could be Steve Becker, who managed that account at that time. I don't know.
So nonetheless, Steve asked H.D. Smith how they identified accounts they had shut down or restricted, and he got a list from H.D. Smith. And do you see the list on that email?
I do.
And do you know what I think Roman numeral 2 stands for?
I do.
What is that?
It's representing C2.
So controlled substances, Schedule 2,
Yes.
is that right? And the first item on his list says C2 ratio to normal non-scheduled product orders. What does that mean to you?
How much? I can't speak for Steve. So, I shared with you we've got a portfolio of products. So maybe he's comparing C2 to other items. Looks like that.
And why would the ratio of controlled substances, Schedule 2 substances, to normal non-scheduled products be a reason to shut down or severely restrict a client?
I can't speak for Steve.
I'm not asking you to speak for Steve. I'm asking you, seeing this item here, which was a reason given by H.D. Smith for why they shut down or severely restricted a downstream customer, do you have any understanding why the ratio of controlled substances to non-normal, non-scheduled product orders would be a reason to cut off, restrict a customer?
I can't speak for H.D. Smith either.
Can you speak to that reason? Do you understand why the ratio of controlled substances to non-scheduled products would be a reason to restrict or shut down a sale to a downstream customer?
I said I don't know H.D. Smith's business model. So H.D. Smith is a wholesaler that has, I'm not sure how many SKUs, 13,000 SKUs. So they have every item that is manufactured. So they're looking at so many different items. So
you don't know, sir,
Sorry.
why this information would be relevant to determining whether to shut off or restrict a customer. That's my only question to you. Do you understand why this ratio would be a relevant consideration when deciding to suspend or eliminate a customer?
Can you ask that again, please?
Do you have any idea why the ratio of controlled substances to non-scheduled products would be relevant to the determination of whether to restrict or suspend a customer?
I have no idea how H.D. Smith goes to market and looks at their items. If lisinopril is an item that they sell more of than something else, will they stop shipping lisinopril? I don't know.
Borelli, did you pay any attention to the ratio of controlled substances your distributor clients bought from you relative to non-controlled substances?
I believe I did.
Why?
I try to look at all my items that I sell.
Is that an indication of potential diversion when a customer is buying only controlled substances and no non-scheduled substances?
That's a tough one to answer.
But is that why the information is here from H.D. Smith as to why, is that a rational conclusion to draw from H.D. Smith, including that as a consideration when deciding whether to shut down or restrict a customer?
I
Object
can't.
to form.
I'm sorry. I can't speak for H.D. Smith at all. I never worked there. I barely managed them. I don't know their model.
So you don't know the answer to this. You don't know why you would look at that ratio. That's all I'm asking you, sir, is if you know why that ratio is relevant to identifying a customer that should be shut down or severely restricted. Can you answer that question?
I can't.
Okay, and if you go to the next item, if the pharmacy was closed door servicing just physicians, do you know why that would be something to look at when deciding whether to shut down or restrict a customer?
Yeah, I do not.
And if you look at the next item, large pharmacies with excess orders, do you know why that would be something to look at when deciding whether to shut down or severely restrict a downstream customer?
I do not.
The next item, no physician sales. Do you know why that would be an item to look at when deciding whether to shut down or severely restrict a customer?
I do not.
And the last item on the list for reasons why H.D. Smith would shut down or severely restrict a customer was pharmacy secondary supplier relations. Do you know what that means?
I do not.
So you don't know what any of these things mean, and yet you forwarded this information to Mr. Cochran and you wrote, let's talk about this when you get back from your mini vacation. I still don't buy off on this information. I would like to talk to you about this to run a similar program with your data. Why would you run a similar program with his data?
I wouldn't run it. I wouldn't run the program. He would run the program with his data to look at this as, and H.D. Smith is a competitor of KeySource, as they are with Kesson and Cardinal and AmerisourceBergen. So if we'll talk when he gets back. I don't know. I mean, you asked me like 9 times about this, and I even set it up here. I don't buy off on it, so I don't understand how this pertains to business with H.D. Smith, because I don't know H.D. Smith's model. I said, let's talk.
Okay, you see here in this email from Kate Mullenkamp to you that your client KeySource is taking over the business of H.D. Smith.
Yeah.
H.D. Smith sales were going to go to KeySource, is that right? That's what happened here. There was a transition.
Did we sell to H.D. Smith our product? I don't know. Did Watson sell their product to H.D. Smith? I don't know. Was there a supply shortage? Was there a DEA quota shortage? I don't know any of these things.
So this says, per our conversation, please find the attached graph showing transition of oxycodone sales from H.D. Smith to KeySource. So you understood that KeySource, the sales that were going to H.D. Smith were being transitioned to KeySource. Did you understand that?
I don't know if there are sales on oxycodone. There are quite a number of vendors that manufacture and sell oxycodone. So I don't know if H.D. Smith was using our brand or someone else's brand.
And so you don't know if when KeySource took over H.D. Smith's sales, it utilized the same system that H.D. Smith was using to eliminate or severely restrict any downstream customers.
That's right.
Where is that?
Thank you.
Mr. Borelli, you're looking at Exhibit 40. It's been marked Exhibit 40, MNKT10000559259. This is an email string, the top of which is an email from you to Mr. Cochran with the subject line, Ray Pain Clinics. And if you look back, and I'll take a minute to review this, but I'll generally describe you in your August 24th, 2010 exchange, you forwarded to Mr. Cochran some older email that you had sent him in 2008. And I'd like to start with the last page of this exhibit, which is an email from Mr. Cochran to you, subject Pain Clinics, dated August 18th, 2008. Do you see that?
I do.
And in this email, Mr. Cochran writes to you, Mr. Victor, in the doesn't hurt to ask category, do you have a list of pain clinics? And if not, do you know where we can get one? Cheap, red, free? You see that?
I do.
And this was relatively early in your relationship with Mr. Cochran, wasn't it?
I don't remember when Malincrot created an account with KeySource.
So if you go then to the next email in that string, it's from you to Mr. Cochran, dated August 18th, 2008, subject line Ray Pain Clinics. You respond to his question, I do not. I think that they, the Cincy bad boys, buy that list, but I don't know where they get that from. NACDS might be a good place to snoop around. Who are the Cincy bad boys?
I'm going to assume another wholesaler in Cincinnati.
And do you know who that might be?
masters, I assume. I didn't name them here, but I'm going to assume that.
And then Mr. Cochran responds to you in his 10:47 p.m. email on August 18th, and he says, Stephanie found a good source for pain clinics online. Got her pumped up now. We're off to the races. Steve. See that?
I see it.
And if you go up further in that exchange, you have an email to Mr. Cochran dated August 19th, 2008 at 7:56 a.m.
I see it.
And you write, perhaps you may want to position it with us at our meeting that you are putting a team in place to market directly towards dispensing physicians, pain management centers, clinics, etc. This would put a bug in the ear of the marketing team who doles out product to keep additional inventory for you. Do you see that?
I do.
So your customer, distributor, client, key source, and VP of Purchasing, Mr. Cochran, asks you for information about how to target pain clinics, and you respond that you don't have a list, but you think you know where he could get one. He finds a list, and then you explain, you give this helpful advice to him about how he could position his business approach at your meeting to market specifically to dispensing physicians, pain management centers, clinics, etc. Correct?
Object to the form.
You asked a lot of things there.
Well, let me strike that question. I'll start over.
You
sent this email to Mr. Cochran on August 19, 2008, in which you suggested to him a way to market directly towards dispensing physicians, pain management centers, and clinics, right?
Object to the form.
No, I don't believe I did that. I'm highlighting to him if he's thinking about. You have to give me a second here. So if he's thinking about putting focus and a business model together for this part of the business, to mention it at NACDS, at the upcoming NACDS meetings, it would. At the NACDS meetings, there's a senior staff, there's marketing team in place who could understand the business model that they're going forward with. Nothing is, I didn't say yes or no to any of this.
So you didn't say to him, wait, Steve, it would be a terrible idea to market directly towards dispensing physicians, pain management centers, clinics. Instead, you indicated that if he did that, it would put a bug in the ear of the marketing team, and they're responsible for doling out product to keep additional inventory for you. So you're suggesting that if he markets this way, there would be more inventory potentially available to him. Isn't that right?
Object to the form.
Isn't that what your email actually says?
What I'm
Object to the
saying.
form.
Sorry. What I'm saying is, if he wants to put a business model in place to target that part of customer base, that he presented to us at the upcoming meeting. Nothing about, while I say keeping additional inventory for you, he's got to, he's got to put a team in place. Key Source has got to put a plan or a model in place, and then in front of us, and then the powers that be, not me. I don't say yes or no to this. This is going to be a senior level decision, whether it be John Adams, who would be the head of all the sales, or Mike Gunning, God rest his soul. I wouldn't say yay or nay. It's a joint effort, right? It's a joint decision. Marketing, senior management, management.
So let's be clear here, Mr. Borelli. Your distributor client indicated to you an interest in marketing to pain clinics and dispensing physicians, right?
That was a business model they put down.
Right.
We're looking at.
And you made a suggestion to him on how he could approach that with your marketing team, right?
Object to the form.
I don't work for Key Source. I don't know how they're going to put a model together.
Okay. It wasn't news to you because Mr. Cochran told you that he was going to be targeting pain clinics, right?
I don't know how far along he got on targeting pain clinics. I don't think he did. I don't think he ever. I don't think. And I say he. I'm sorry. I don't think they ever did. I don't remember.
After you received the question from him about a list for pain clinics, and I'll read it again, you responded, "Perhaps you may want to position it with us at our meeting that you are putting a team in place to market directly toward dispensing physicians, pain management centers, clinics, etc. This would put a bug in the ear of the marketing team who doles out product to keep additional inventory for you." That is what you wrote, correct?
That is what I wrote.
Okay. Now, if we go up to the next email, we get forward to August 23rd, 2010, and this is the email where you forwarded to him this earlier exchange, and you write, "Wow, how times have changed. I was digging up the restaurant name that we may go to, and I found this string of emails. Funny stuff." Do you recall why you thought that was funny stuff, that your client was looking into ways to target pain clinics as downstream customers?
Object to the form. Sorry.
Sorry. I do not.
Okay, and if you look up Mr. Cochran's response to you, later that evening on August 23rd, 2010 was, "Wow, I got the creeps reading this. Are you sure this wasn't a Wild Man and RX King email exchange? In hindsight, Denny and Dave's trip to DC to visit DEA was a godsend. Thankfully, we never pursued this. Steve." Do you see that?
I do.
And above that, you write, "True dat," right?
Yes.
So, why do you think Mr. Cochran got the creeps reading this?
Object to the form.
He's looking at something 2 years later. Who knows the future? I certainly don't. So he was looking to put a business model together, and then he's saying, way back when, and then he's saying, thank gosh he didn't.
And why is that? Why, thank gosh he didn't? Why the creeps?
I can't answer for Steve.
You have no idea.
I can't answer for Steve.
You have no idea why he'd write, "Wow, I got the creeps reading this."
Well, I can't answer for Steve. I'm sorry.
All right. And what's the reference to Wild Man and RX King?
I have
Do you know?
no idea. I have no idea.
And do you know what Denny and Dave's trip to DC to visit DEA was?
I don't. I'm not. Denny, I believe Denny was the president of their organization, Key Source, God rest his soul. Dave also, from emails you shared before, was also at Key Source.
So now what you learn from this email is that Mr. Cochran is extremely glad he didn't target dispensing physicians and pain clinics, right?
Right.
But you knew you had other customers who did in fact target dispensing physicians and pain clinics, right?
Yes. That were vetted by DEA agent in the process. I feel like you're using certain words and certain pieces of articles, and you're not sharing the entire process and sharing the entire email. I know you don't have to answer that, but you haven't before, so I don't think that's fair at all. This is a good thing. They didn't open up and go after that business.
And other customers of yours did, correct?
Other customers in the marketplace did.
Other Mallinckrodt wholesale distributor customers of yours.
You know, the customers you talk about, we weren't the only ones selling product to them. You make it sound like we are, but, and we didn't create these companies. They were buying from somebody else, but there may have been a DEA quota issue for those companies. I don't know 10 years ago, I don't remember.
Why was it a good thing that Mr. Cochran didn't target pain clinics and dispensing physicians?
Because he's highlighting that it looks like a messy business.
And do you have any other understanding about what that means? What do you mean messy business?
It looks like he's saying he's happy that they didn't pursue that business model. Messy is my word.
And do you have any
Perhaps that's
understanding of why he would be
said-
happy about that?
I said, it looks like he's happy they didn't pursue that. Messy is my word. It's nowhere in here.
Is the pain clinic and dispensing physician business a messy one?
Object to the form.
Not if they have, and again, I've shared this before, DEA license, a patient that comes in for pain management products for medicinal purposes, that's written by a doctor with a DEA license. You're talking about my customer.
Sir, I'm talking about the downstream customers of your customers. You have one customer here telling you that he's sure glad he didn't target pain clinics and dispensing physicians, and you have other customers who did in fact target pain clinics and dispensing physicians. And I'm asking you, why do you think it was a good idea for KeySource not to target pain clinics and dispensing physicians?
He's saying,
what is your understanding? Why do you think it's a good idea?
it's not a model that they wanted to get into.
Because it's prone to diversion? You have no understanding?
You
Object to the form.
I've not said once that a dispensing physician is prone for diversion. I don't know that to be accurate because they've got a DEA license and they're delivering and dispensing products to patients that have a prescription in their hand from a doctor with a DEA license. Thank you.
Showing you what's been marked Exhibit 41, which is a email string, first page from you to Dave Hoffman with a CC to Steve Cochran, dated September 29, 2010. And if you go back to the beginning of the string in the email from Dave Hoffman to you on September 3rd, 2010, the subject is chargeback quantity of oxycodone 30. Hoffman writes to you, Vic, I have an account in Florida that is increasing their use of Mallinckrodt oxycodone 30 mg at a rapid pace. In February of this year, they provided me with a report on Oxy 30 mg for 39,959 tablets. The same report for the month of July is 119,587 tablets. Can you tell me if this is the correct amount of Oxy 30 mg showing up on the chargebacks for him? The name of the store is Farmco, address in Florida. Do you see that?
I do.
And you take that information for chargeback information from your client, and you send that to Kate Mullenkamp, and you ask her, can you pull up the DEA number FP0784872 to see if they pull our Oxy 30 mg from anyone else than KMI? That's KeySource, right?
Yes.
And what has their usage been for the past 12 months?
Yes.
Okay. So you ask Kate to go into the chargeback system and provide you information to respond to a client inquiry. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you forward that back to Mr. Hoffman on September 29, 2010. And you write, Dave, sorry about the long delay on this. I think this is what you wanted to review, this information, and let's talk. P.S. And you write, shh, S-H-H-H-H-H-H. What's the P.S. about?
I have no idea.
Okay, why would you want him to keep quiet about information you're providing to him from Mallinckrodt's chargeback system?
I have no idea. Thank you.
Showing you what's been marked Exhibit 42, which is an email dated January 10th, 2011 from you to Steve Cochran. The subject line is Ray, KMI Business Review. And if you look at the bottom of the first page, there's an email from you, January 7th, 2011 to Michael Gunning with a CC to Jane Williams. Who is Michael Gunning?
Michael Gunning was the senior vice, I don't remember Mike's title, I'm sorry, but I believe he was the senior vice president of sales and marketing.
For Mallinckrodt.
I'm sorry, yes, for Mallinckrodt.
And you write Mike this message on January 7, 2011, and you state, please find the business review I'm going to present to KMI next week. The sales data is year over year, parentheses, CY 2009 versus CY 2010, close parentheses. I know that we talk about their skyrocketing oxycodone sales, and yes, while their volume has grown well over year in the oxycodone family, i.e. 424%, their year-over-year sales on all other families, excluding oxycodone, is up plus 216%. In addition to growing our same item sales on every single family year over year, we are also able to add our only missing family, naltrexone, to our portfolio, as well as gain distribution on our fentanyl lozenge during the introductory rollout time frame. Do you see that? So you're noting
I do.
skyrocketing. You described them as skyrocketing oxycodone sales. Is that right? Those are the words that you use.
I see it.
Right. You see where you wrote that key sources oxycodone sales are skyrocketing?
I see it.
Okay. And then at the bottom of your email, you note, if there was ever a true partner of ours in the industry, it's Key Source Medical. Why do you say that?
Key Source Medical supplied us with a lot of price points in the marketplace, a lot of competitive information, had a full and robust portfolio of our products from us. So our distribution on all of our items, not just our oxycodone, I think I highlight that, exclude oxy, and they're up 216%. So they buy all of our products. They share a lot of information, and they took on a new item, so I call that a true partner.
And among the products they bought from you was skyrocketing purchases of oxycodone, right?
That is one.
Okay, you don't describe the other products they're purchasing from you as skyrocketing, right?
Well, I highlight that we're up excluding oxycodone, we're up 216%. I could have written skyrocketing there as well.
But you didn't do that, right? You just wrote skyrocketing about oxycodone.
You asked the question. So I'm highlighting and giving some background to Mike about this organization. They're buying every molecule from us.
They were a great customer.
Scheduled and not scheduled. They share a world of information on price points. They share a world of information about competitors. So that's a true partner. There's a lot of things that go into that.
What information did they share about competitors?
You took it 10 years ago. But if they're having a new launch on a molecule, if Watson is coming out with altenolol, that's very important for us to know. If Aurobindo is coming out with metformin, it's very, very important for us to know these things, so we know that they're going to go after some of our accounts. That's not every account, not every customer does that.
Did Mr. Cochran share information with you about other opioid manufacturers?
I believe so.
Which ones?
I mentioned that Watson on a atenolol. It could be Watson on their molecules. It could be KV-K-Tech. It could be, I don't remember the specifics, but I'm sure he shared all items all the time.
And how did Mallinckrodt use that information?
I would pass it along to the sales as well as the marketing team, so they know what competitors are coming out with, what items, what price points there are in the market. These are all important things for business.
So among the other information about Mallinckrodt's competitors that you were getting from Mr. Cochran was pricing information about competitive products?
Sometimes.
If we move up the string, you forward your message to Mike Gunning to Mr. Cochran. So again, this is another example of you forwarding an internal Mallinckrodt email to your customer, Mr. Cochran, right?
Okay.
And what you write to Mr. Cochran on January 7th, 2011 is, "Who loves you, baby? Trying to give you some good press with the big man. These are the numbers we'll be talking to, so look, act surprised. Thanks again for everything, and I hope you have a great weekend." Who's the big man that you're referring to in this email?
I'm going to assume it's Michael Gunning.
Okay, so you're sharing with your customer the sales report summary that you gave to your boss.
I'm sharing with the customer what I showed Mike, but I would be sharing with the customer a week later because I'm going to be doing a year-over-year review.
And when you tell him to look, act surprised, that's because you probably shouldn't be sending this information to him?
Object to the form.
No, I don't see it. What? What do you mean?
Well, why would he need to look or act surprised?
Not because I'd be showing it to him in a week later, so I'm just giving him some insight on what we're going to review.
Okay. Little tip on the report that he was going to get later.
I assume so.
Did anyone at Mallinckrodt ever complain to you about your forwarding Mallinckrodt emails to Mr. Cochran?
Not that I remember.
If we move up the chain, January 9, 2011, 7:30 p.m., Mr. Cochran emails you in response to your "Who loves you, baby" email. "Thanks, bro. Couldn't have done it without you. On my flight to Cincy right now. Land in about 30 minutes. Internet first class, unlimited beverages. Only thing missing is being able to stare at Jane's rack the entire flight. Guess you got me beat." You see that?
I do.
And what does he mean by he couldn't have done it without you?
Well, to grow a business, you've got to have a salesperson that's making sure there's inventory, making sure there's supply, making sure that they're priced properly in the market to be able to compete. I don't know if all the sales managers, I can't speak for them all, but I don't know if all the sales managers in the industry do that.
So you and Mr. Cochran worked well together, and based upon the tenor and content of these emails, it looks like he was very appreciative of what you did for him.
Object to the form.
I guess so.
Okay. And the particular part of his business that you noted was skyrocketing here, again, was the oxycodone part?
I highlighted two parts of the business. Excluding oxycodone is up 216%. That's quite well. That's quite a big number as well. I highlighted oxy specifically and called it out, and his business is up overall quite well on all items.
Do you have any idea how much money KeySource Medical made selling Mallinckrodt's oxycodone?
Object to the form.
I didn't work at KeySource. I have no idea.
Do you have any idea how much money Mallinckrodt made selling oxycodone to KeySource?
No, not really.
Oh, who's the Jane that you're discussing in your email with Mr. Cochran?
Object to the form.
Jane Williams,
And what was her position?
Vice President of Sales.
Was she your boss?
She was.
Handing you what's been marked Exhibit 43, Bates number MNK T10000559925. This is an email from you. strangely enough, to yourself. Subject line, oxycodone 30 milligram Masters Mallinckrodt. Is that what's in front of you, sir?
Yes.
And if you look down, it's another email from Mr. Cochran to you dated January 25th, 2011. Subject, oxycodone 30 milligram Masters Mallinckrodt. And he writes, VB, call me about this one when you have a minute. When you have a minute, shh. Keep it on the down low. Thank you, Steve. And attached to that email is it's like a purchase order. Can you explain why this was sent to you and why he wants you to keep it on the down low?
Well, I don't believe this is a purchase order.
What is this?
This looks like a website page that mastersrx.com website page that's highlighting a shipment process as well as a price on a molecule.
Okay, does this appear to be the receipt of an online order of roxicodone manufactured by Mallinckrodt?
I don't think so. I think it's what I said before. I think it's a snapshot of a website page with a product on it.
And is it your understanding that mastersrx.com was able to sell Mallinckrodt Oxy 30 online?
Object to the form.
I don't know online. I don't know what you mean. They're highlighting a product. So I don't understand what you mean by online.
Okay. And you don't know why Mr. Cochran would be asking you to keep this information on the down low?
Not on the down low, but this is part of what I talked about before about competitive information. This looks like a web page. I don't know exactly, but it looks like a competitor of theirs web page or an item that has a price on it. Thank you.
You've been handed Exhibit 44, which is an article from WCPO Cincinnati, and it's called Analysis, Meet the Opioid Wholesalers Who Became Middlemen for the Heroin Epidemic. You see that?
I do.
Do you know if have you seen this article before?
It doesn't look familiar, but regarding articles, today I probably receive 40 articles a day of different clippings of different Fierce Farmers, drugstore news, drug topics, AAM information, wholesale information. Back then, I may have been receiving just as many. So if I did receive this, okay. I don't remember receiving it, but I receive a lot.
Okay. Well, let's
Can I have a standing objection to this exhibit? A line of questions.
turn to go in to the 7th page. There's some information. This is an article about wholesalers, which, of course, Mallinckrodt's customers were wholesalers. And there's a discussion of, in this article, a couple of the Ohio-based wholesalers that were Mallinckrodt customers and your customers. One is Masters and the other is KeySource. And I want to ask you some questions about the information in here to see if it's consistent with your understanding from when they were your customer.
Where does it show the page?
You just have to flip in 7 pages, or you flip in 1, 2, 3, and it'll be the 4th page. There you go.
Okay.
So if you see there's a heading in the middle of the page, still selling even as DEA investigates. And if you go down 3 paragraphs, it states KeySource Medical is a relatively small independent drug supplier operating out of just one facility in Blue Ash. Were you aware of that when KeySource was your customer?
That they operated in Blue Ash?
Correct.
I thought it was Cincinnati.
Okay. Ohio, nonetheless.
Yes.
And you knew they were a small independent drug supplier, correct?
Yes.
And moving to the next paragraph, it says KeySource specialized in generic hydrocodone and oxycodone, which the DEA calls the most widely abused pills in the country. Although it is a relatively small supplier, KeySource became one of the top wholesalers of pain pills to Florida pharmacies, the DEA said. Is that something that you were aware of during the time that you worked for Mallinckrodt?
I don't know this article, so...
But do you know these facts? Based on KeySource being a customer that you worked very closely with and a customer that indicated that it couldn't have done it without you.
Object to the form.
You're referencing a note that he sent me about a business review on all of our products.
Sir, I'm asking you about the language in this article. Were you aware that KeySource specialized in generic hydrocodone and oxycodone when KeySource was your customer?
Specializing in that? No. They have 700 or 800 molecules in their warehouse all the time. So, was I aware of these 2 of the 800 molecules? No. No.
And were you aware that KeySource became one of the top wholesalers of pain pills to Florida pharmacies at the time that KeySource was your customer?
No.
And if you move down, the article states, in a 2-year period, KeySource sold more than 59 million doses of oxycodone to customers in 40 states, the DEA said. The vast majority of that, 78%, was sold to pharmacies in Florida, which was known as a haven for pill mills, the DEA said. At the time KeySource was your customer, were you aware that KeySource sold more than 59 million doses of oxycodone to customers in 40 states?
Object to the form.
I don't know how many doses they sold, and when they sell the product, whether it be a tenolol, a Cinepril, or a hydrocodone, I don't know where they ship it to.
Okay, and were you aware that 78% of the oxycodone that KeySource purchased was sold to pharmacies in Florida?
Object to the form.
No, I wasn't.
And was Mallinckrodt KeySource sole supplier of oxycodone?
I don't believe so.
Okay, who do you think the other suppliers were?
I'm not sure. Activists, Watson, KVK Tech, I'm not sure. But I don't believe we were sole supplier.
Moving in the article, it says some of those pills made their way back to Ohio and Kentucky via what DEA officials called the Florida Pipeline or the OxyContin Express. Drug traffickers would hire people to drive to pill mills in Florida every 2 weeks or so, buy oxycodone for $40 a bottle, drive it back to Ohio or Kentucky, and sell it on the black market for $1,500 a bottle, according to a DEA narrative. Is that something that you were aware of from the articles and other information that we went through earlier at the time that KeySource was your customer?
Object to the form.
No, I don't know these specifics at all.
Is that something you ever investigated or looked into when KeySource was your customer?
Look into what? If they look into what?
Looked into Mallinckrodt pills sold by your customer to Florida pharmacies, leaving Florida and traveling to other states such as Ohio and Kentucky.
I don't know how I could do that. I don't know how I could, one, know where they ship it to. Two is how it gets dispensed to a patient, and then what that patient, you're asking me to know what the patient does with it?
No, sir, you absolutely can know where your wholesale distributor customers ship their product, right? We went through reams of materials showing that that information is in the chargeback system, right?
Which is something that I was not involved with, chargeback data.
I'm asking you if you investigated this. So did you look into, for example, in any detail, where your customers shipped their product?
At times, yes.
And so did you look into whether product that your customers shipped to Florida was being diverted and driven to other states?
You asked two questions there. So there was chargeback data regarding Florida sales throughout the pages you supplied, but I have no idea how that product is used by that patient. Driven on a Florida pipeline, bought for $40, sold for $1,500. No idea.
So you had access to information showing that clients were sending most of their pills to Florida, right?
Object to the form.
Not direct access.
Okay. But access if you wanted it.
Not direct access.
Okay. Sir, did you have any access at all?
I had to go to chargeback's department or marketing department or somebody else to get that information.
And from all of the articles we looked at, it's your recollection as you sit here today that you were not aware that pills were migrating out of Florida from pain clinics and dispensing physicians? Is that new information to you?
I shared with you a moment ago, I have no idea what a patient does once they bring a prescription into a pharmacy and receive their medicine prescribed. What they do with it, how would I possibly know that?
And Mr. Borelli, I'm not asking you about any specific patient. I'm asking you whether you were aware of the phenomenon of people coming from out of state into Florida and leaving the state with oxycodone distributed by Florida pain clinics. Was that a phenomenon you were aware of when you worked at Mallinckrodt?
I heard about it. I think you shared articles about it that were sent to me, so
Moving further in this article, it notes, in 2011, the DEA raided KeySource Blue Ash office and seized sales records, emails, and letters. It suspended the company's license to sell narcotics, quote, to stop KMI from adding any more fuel to the flame of what is an imminent and serious public health problem, period, end quote. KeySource was, quote, sending tens of millions of pills of oxycodone into Florida, the national epicenter of the pill problem, a DEA investigator said in court documents. Do you recall when the DEA shut down KeySource?
I do not.
Did you read any information at the time? Were you curious to know why that happened?
What?
Why the DEA shut down KeySource?
Of course.
And what steps did you take when you learned that to figure out what happened to all of the oxycodone that you sold KeySource that was shipped to Florida?
Check to the form.
I can't remember what I did back then.
It's been another hour interval. Is it okay time to take a break?
What's the time remaining?
6:14 run time, 46 minutes left.
Sure, it could be a short one. I appreciate it.
Time is 5:08 p.m. We're going off the record.